Marcus Kane wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed over another rust-colored rock formation. The Martian desert stretched endlessly in all directions, a barren wasteland of red dust and jagged stones that had been his workplace for the past 5 years. His salvage scanner beeped steadily in his hand, searching for any trace of valuable metals or abandoned tech that he could sell to the mining corporations back in New Phoenix City. The morning sun cast long shadows across the desolate landscape, and Marcus knew he had maybe 6 hours before the temperature would climb to deadly levels. He had already found nothing but worthless iron deposits and some old weather monitoring equipment that had been picked clean by other salvagers years ago. His oxygen reserves were good for another 8 hours, but water was running low, and his suit's cooling system was making that annoying clicking sound again that meant expensive repairs were coming soon. Marcus stopped and checked his scanner one more time. The device showed a faint signal coming from somewhere ahead, buried deep beneath what looked like a natural hill formation. Most salvagers would have ignored such a weak reading, but Marcus had learned to trust his instincts over the past few years. Sometimes the best finds were the ones that other people missed. He made his way toward the hill, his boots crunching on the loose gravel and sand. The formation was larger than it had appeared from a distance, rising almost 50 meters above the surrounding terrain. Strange patterns in the rock caught his attention as he got closer. The lines were too regular to be natural, almost like they had been carved or molded rather than formed by wind and weather. The scanner's beeping grew stronger as Marcus circled the base of the hill. Whatever was buried here was big and made of materials his scanner couldn't identify. He pulled out his portable excavation kit and began the slow process of clearing away centuries of accumulated dust and debris. Hours passed as Marcus dug carefully into the rocky surface. His training had taught him to be patient with potential finds, never rushing, and always preserving whatever might be valuable underneath. The work was hard, and his suit's life support systems worked overtime to keep him cool, but the scanner readings kept getting stronger. When his excavation tool finally struck something that wasn't rock, Marcus felt his heart rate spike. The surface underneath was smooth and metallic, with a deep black color that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He brushed away more debris and revealed what looked like part of hull or outer shell. The metal was unlike anything he had seen before, with no visible seams or joints, as if the entire surface had been formed from a single piece. Marcus expanded his digging area and slowly uncovered more of the mysterious object. It was definitely artificial, and from what he could see, it was huge. The curve of the hull suggested something at least 30 meters long, maybe more. His scanner showed that the object extended deep underground, much deeper than his equipment could reach from the surface. After another hour of careful excavation, Marcus had cleared enough space to see what appeared to be some kind of access panel or doorway. The surface was completely smooth except for a small depression that looked like it might be a hand scanner or touchpad. He had seen similar designs on some of the more advanced corporate vessels, but this looked far more sophisticated than anything currently in use. Marcus hesitated for a moment. His salvage license allowed him to investigate and claim abandoned technology, but something this advanced might belong to one of the big corporations or even the Martian government. On the other hand, it was buried in the middle of nowhere with no identification markings visible, and finders keepers was still the rule in the outer territories. He pressed his gloved hand against the depression in the hull. The reaction was immediate and startling. Lines of blue light spread out from where his hand touched the surface, racing across the hull in complex patterns that reminded Marcus of circuit boards or neural networks. The light pulsed gently, and he felt a slight vibration through his suit as systems somewhere inside the buried vessel came to life. A section of the hull slid silently aside, revealing an airlock that was clearly designed for human use. Emergency lighting activated inside, casting a soft white glow that was much more welcoming than the harsh red sunlight of Mars. Marcus checked his scanner for any signs of radiation or dangerous chemicals, but the readings showed normal atmosphere inside the vessel. He stepped through the airlock, and it sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The inner door opened a moment later, and Marcus found himself in a corridor that was clearly built by humans, but unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were covered in smooth panels that seemed to glow with their own internal light, and the floor had a slight spring to it that made walking comfortable even in his heavy environment suit. As Marcus moved deeper into the vessel, More lights activated ahead of him and dimmed behind him, as if the ship was guiding his path. The corridor opened into a large central chamber filled with displays and control stations that were far more advanced than anything on the current generation of human spacecraft. Everything was sized for human use, but the technology looked like it belonged centuries in the future rather than buried in the Martian desert. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform with what was obviously a command chair. As Marcus approached it, holographic displays flickered to life around the room, showing star maps and data streams that he couldn't begin to understand. The chair itself looked comfortable and well-designed, with controls built into the armrest that seemed to invite him to sit down. Marcus touched one of the control panels experimentally, and the entire room responded. The displays brightened and reorganized themselves, showing what appeared to be diagnostic information about the ship's systems. Most of the text was in languages he didn't recognize, but some sections were clearly in English, though using terms and abbreviations he had never seen before. A calm, distinctly artificial voice spoke from speakers hidden throughout the chamber. The voice was pleasant and professional, with just enough human warmth to avoid sounding completely mechanical. Biometric scan complete, the voice announced. Genetic markers confirmed. Welcome back, Admiral Kane. It had been 512 years, 7 months, and 14 days since our last mission. Marcus nearly jumped out of his environment suit. He spun around, looking for the source of the voice, but saw only the quietly humming displays and control stations. His heart was pounding as he tried to process what he had just heard. "I'm not an admiral," Marcus said aloud, feeling somewhat foolish for talking to empty air. "My name is Marcus Kane, and I'm a licensed salvage operator. I don't know what this ship is or how it knows my name, but there's been some kind of mistake." The voice responded immediately, with what sounded almost like gentle amusement. "Negative, Admiral. Genetic analysis confirms you are descended from Admiral James Kane, primary commander of the human expeditionary fleet. Your genetic markers match command authorization protocols. This vessel is the HFY Vanguard, flagship of the 7th Battle Group. I am Arya, Advanced Reconnaissance and Intelligence Assistant, your dedicated command AI." Marcus stared at the displays around him, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. He had never heard of any human expeditionary fleet, and according to every history book he had ever read, humans had barely managed to colonize their own solar system, let alone field battle groups with AI assistance. "I think your records are corrupted," Marcus said carefully. "Humans don't have battle fleets or AI assistants. We barely have the technology to travel between planets in our own system. Earth and Mars are pretty much the extent of human civilization." The pause that followed was longer this time, and when Arya spoke again, there was something like concern in the artificial voice. "Admiral, I am detecting significant gaps in your knowledge base regarding human history and capabilities. This suggests either memory modification or cultural suppression on a massive scale. With your permission, I would like to activate the historical archives and provide you with accurate information about humanity's true past." Marcus looked around the impossible chamber with its advanced technology and holographic displays. Everything he was seeing contradicted what he thought he knew about human capabilities. But the evidence was right in front of him. Either this was the most elaborate hoax in history, or there were things about humanity's past that had been completely forgotten or deliberately hidden. "Show me," Marcus said finally. The displays around the room shifted and reorganized themselves into a three-dimensional star map that filled the entire chamber. Hundreds of points of light appeared, connected by streams of data, and marked with symbols that Marcus didn't recognize. As he watched, the map zoomed in on familiar constellations and then further in to show star systems that he knew contained human colonies. But the map showed far more than just Earth and Mars. Dozens of systems were marked with human symbols, connected by what looked like trade routes and communication networks. The scope of it was staggering, suggesting a human presence that spanned hundreds of light years and included colonies that Marcus had never heard of. "This is the Human Confederacy as it existed 500 years ago," Arya explained. 47 primary colonies, over 200 mining and research outposts, and a military fleet capable of defending human interests across multiple sectors of the galaxy. Humanity was one of the dominant powers in this region of space, respected and feared by numerous alien species. Marcus sank into the command chair without realizing it, overwhelmed by the implications of what he was seeing. If this was true, then everything he thought he knew about human history was wrong. But how could an entire interstellar civilization simply disappear without leaving any trace in historical record? What happened to it all? He asked quietly. The star map dimmed slightly, and many of the connection lines turned red or disappeared entirely. Civil War, Admiral. The Confederacy tore itself apart in a conflict that lasted nearly 50 years. By the end, most of the colonies had been abandoned or destroyed, and the survivors retreated to primitive worlds like Earth and Mars to rebuild. The fleet was mothballed and hidden, waiting for the day when humanity would be ready to reclaim its place among the stars. Marcus sat in silence, staring at the display of humanity's lost empire. The command chair seemed to mold itself to his body, and he could feel the ship's systems responding to his presence in ways he didn't understand. Whatever the truth was about his past or his supposed ancestry, one thing was becoming clear. His life as a simple salvage operator was over. Marcus remained seated in the command chair as Arya began displaying more information about humanity's forgotten past. The holographic displays shifted to show what appeared to be historical records, with images and data streams that painted a picture completely different from everything Marcus had been taught in school. Admiral, would you like to review the personal records of your ancestor, Admiral James Kane? Arya asked. His files may help you understand the scope of human achievements during the Confederacy period. Marcus nodded, still struggling to accept what he was seeing. A new display materialized in front of him, showing the image of a man who looked remarkably similar to Marcus himself. The same dark hair, the same strong jawline, even the same green eyes. The man wore a uniform that was clearly military, but unlike anything Marcus had seen in contemporary human forces. Admiral James Kane served as Supreme Commander of Human Forces during the First Galactic War. Arya began. Under his leadership, human military doctrine evolved to emphasize adaptability, rapid response, and unconventional tactics. These strategies proved highly effective against alien opponents who relied on rigid command structures and predictable battle plans. The display showed what appeared to be battle recordings from space engagements. Marcus watched in amazement as human ships, smaller and apparently less advanced than their opponents, used complex maneuvers and coordinated attacks to defeat much larger alien fleets. The human vessels moved like schools of fish, adapting their formations in real time and striking at unexpected angles. How is this possible? Marcus asked. The ships in these recordings are using technology we don't have today. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, force fields. If humans had this technology 500 years ago, why don't we have it now? Arya paused the playback and focused on a single human vessel. Human technology during the Confederacy period was based on different principles than current Earth and Mars development. Rather than focusing on raw power or advanced materials, human engineers emphasized modularity, adaptability, and rapid manufacturing. A human ship could be reconfigured for different missions in hours rather than months. The display showed the interior of one of the ships, with modular components that could be quickly rearranged or replaced. Marcus could see how weapon systems could be swapped out for medical facilities, or how cargo bays could be converted into manufacturing centers. It was elegant in its simplicity, and he began to understand why human forces had been so effective. But this still does explain how all of this was lost, Marcus said. Even if there was a civil war, surely some of this technology would have survived. The displays around the chamber dimmed, and Arya's voice took on a more somber tone. The Civil War was not fought over territory or resources, Admiral. It was fought over the fundamental question of humanity's role in the galaxy. One faction believed humans should use their military superiority to establish an empire, ruling over other species for their own good. The other faction believed humans should serve as protectors and teachers, helping other species develop their own capabilities. Marcus leaned forward in the command chair as new images appeared. These showed human colonies in flames, massive space battles between human fleets, and the gradual collapse of the communication networks that had held the Confederacy together. The scale of destruction was staggering, with entire star systems being abandoned as the conflict consumed resources and lives. The war lasted 47 years, Arya continued. By the end, both factions had exhausted themselves. The remaining human population made a collective decision that would define the next 5 centuries. Rather than risk another civil war, they would abandon their advanced technology and scatter to primitive worlds where they could rebuild human civilization from the ground up. The star map reappeared, but now Marcus could see the exodus routes as human populations fled from their advanced colonies to backwater worlds like Earth and Mars. The evacuation was clearly well-planned and coordinated, with different groups taking responsibility for preserving different aspects of human knowledge and culture. The fleet commanders made a pact, Arya explained. The advanced warships would be hidden and placed in automated hibernation, waiting for the day when humanity had matured enough to reclaim its heritage without repeating the mistakes of the past. Each ship was programmed to respond only to the genetic descendants of its original command crew. Marcus stared at the displays showing dozens of hidden ship locations throughout the solar system. Most were in deep space or hidden in asteroid fields, but some were buried on planets and moons just like the Vanguard had been buried on Mars. The scope of it was overwhelming, representing a military force that could probably conquer the current human colonies in a matter of days. Why now? Marcus asked, what makes you think humanity is ready to have this technology back? Arya displayed what appeared to be monitoring data from Earth and Mars, showing technological development, population growth, and social progress over the past 5 centuries. Human civilization has reached a stable point where the risk of another devastating civil war is minimal. More importantly, external factors now require human intervention. The displays shifted to show star maps of the local galaxy, with new information that made Marcus's blood run cold. Alien civilizations that he had never heard were marked throughout human space, and many of them appeared to be actively monitoring or interfering with human development. The other species in this region have not been idle during humanity's absence, Arya explained. Several have formed what they call the Galactic Council, ostensibly to maintain peace, but actually prevent any one species from achieving the kind of dominance that humans once held. They have been actively suppressing human technological development for centuries. Marcus felt a surge of anger as he saw the evidence displayed before him. Sabotaged space missions, technological dead ends that have been deliberately encouraged, and even direct interference in human politics and economics. The aliens have been treating humanity like children, keeping them contained and weak while they divided up what had once been human territory. The council species remember the human military reputation. Arya continued. They have agreements in place to never allow humanity to redevelop faster than light travel or advanced weapon systems. Several species maintain monitoring stations in your solar system, and they have contingency plans to sterilize Earth and Mars if humans ever show signs of reclaiming their former capabilities. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Not only had humanity once been a galactic power, but other species were actively working to keep them primitive and contained. Every failed space mission, every technological setback, every political crisis that had slowed human expansion into space might have been a result of alien manipulation. Show me proof, Marcus said grimly. Arya displayed intercepts from alien communications networks, showing discussions between council species about human development. Marcus could see references to sabotage missions he remembered from news reports and evidence of alien agents operating on Earth and Mars under false identities. The scope of the deception was staggering, involving multiple species working together to keep humanity trapped in their own solar system. The Council believes that if humans ever rediscover their military heritage, another galactic war will be inevitable, Arya explained. They would rather commit genocide than risk facing human battle fleets again. Marcus stood up in the command chair and paced around the chamber, his mind racing as he tried to process everything he had learned. His simple salvage operation had uncovered evidence of conspiracy that spanned centuries and involved multiple alien species. More than that, he was apparently the genetic heir to a military tradition that had once dominated this entire region of space. What about the other ships? Marcus asked. You said there were dozens of them hidden throughout the solar system. Are they still functional? All fleet vessels remain in standby mode, awaiting activation by authorized command personnel. Arya replied, "Your genetic signature has been transmitted to the network, and the other ships are beginning their wake-up sequences. However, full activation will require direct authorization from you as the senior surviving officer." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. These weren't just ancient artifacts he had stumbled across. They were weapons of incredible destructive power that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. If he activated them, he would be taking on the role that his ancestor had held centuries ago, becoming the leader of a military force that other species feared enough to commit genocide to prevent. "How long do we have before the Council realizes what's happening?" Marcus asked. "Unknown, Admiral. The Vanguard's activation may have already been detected by their monitoring systems. If so, we can expect them to respond quickly and decisively. Council doctrine calls for immediate sterilization of any world showing signs of advanced human military technology." Marcus looked around the chamber at the displays showing the locations of hidden human colonies, alien monitoring stations, and the slowly awakening fleet. He was facing a choice that would determine not just his own fate, but the future of humanity itself. He could try to hide what he had discovered, hoping that the aliens wouldn't notice one reactivated ship. Or he could embrace his heritage and take the steps necessary to protect his species from those who would keep them enslaved. "Arya, how long would it take to fully activate the fleet?" "With your authorization, all vessels could be brought online within 72 hours. However, crew training and systems integration would require several additional weeks for optimal effectiveness." Marcus nodded slowly, understanding that time was now his greatest enemy. If the aliens were already aware of the Vanguard's activation, they might not have weeks to prepare. The next few days could determine whether humanity reclaimed its place among the stars or was wiped out to prevent that possibility. He sat back down in the command chair and felt the ship's systems responding to his presence once again. The weight of 5 centuries of human history pressed down on him, along with the responsibility for decisions that could affect billions of lives. But as he looked at the evidence of alien deception and manipulation, Marcus felt his uncertainty transforming into cold determination. "Arya, begin the fleet activation sequence," Marcus said quietly, "and start preparing defensive positions around Earth and Mars. If the Council wants a war, we'll give them one they'll remember." The first ship appeared 3 hours after Marcus gave the activation order. He was studying fleet deployment patterns on the Vanguard's displays when Arya announced that the heavy cruiser Defiant had completed its wake-up sequence and was requesting orders. Marcus watched through the ship's external cameras as a sleek vessel materialized from what had appeared to be empty space near the Martian moon Phobos. The Defiant was larger than the Vanguard, with weapon arrays that looked capable of destroying cities, and armor plating that seemed to bend light around its edges. As Marcus watched, the ship's stealth systems deactivated completely, revealing the full scope of an advanced design. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a reminder just how far ahead human technology had been during the Confederacy period. "Admiral, the Defiance AI is requesting permission to establish tactical network," Arya reported. "Commander-class AI designation Brutus. Specialized in fleet coordination and strategic planning." Marcus activated the communication system, still feeling strange about being addressed as an admiral by artificial intelligences that were probably smarter than he was. "This is Admiral Kane aboard the Vanguard. Permission granted, Brutus. What's your status?" A new voice joined the conversation, deeper and more formal than Arya's pleasant tones. "Admiral Kane, this is Brutus aboard HF Defiant. All systems operational. Crew quarters prepared for human occupation. I have been monitoring local space during hibernation and have significant intelligence updates regarding alien activity in this system." Marcus felt his stomach tighten as he realized that the alien monitoring of human space was probably much more extensive than he had imagined. "Go ahead, Brutus." "Sir, there are currently 17 alien observation posts operating within the solar system. 12 are automated monitoring stations, but 5 contain living crews from various council species. They have been tracking human technological development and reporting to council headquarters in the Wolf system. As of 6 hours ago, several stations began transmitting emergency signals." The displays around Marcus showed the locations of the alien monitoring posts. Most were hidden in asteroid fields or on the dark side of moons, positioned to observe human activities, while remaining undetected by current Earth and Mars sensor technology. The fact that they had been watching for centuries without humans knowing made Marcus feel sick with anger. Over the next several hours, more ships came online. The battleship Sovereign uncloaked near Jupiter, its massive bulk bristling with enough firepower to level continents. The fast attack ship Meteor appeared in the asteroid belt, designed for hit-and-run tactics against much larger opponents. The carrier Horizon emerged from behind Saturn's rings, its launch bays capable of deploying hundreds of smaller combat craft. Each ship came with its own AI commander, and each AI had been monitoring human space and alien activities during the long hibernation. As they shared their intelligence with Arya and Marcus, a picture emerged of just how thoroughly humanity had been watched and controlled. The aliens hadn't just been preventing human expansion into space. They had been actively shaping human history to keep the species divided and weak. Admiral, we now have 12 vessels active with more coming online every hour, Arya reported. However, I must inform you that we have detected increased activity from the alien monitoring stations. They are clearly aware that something significant is happening. Marcus studied the tactical displays, showing both the awakening human fleet and the positions of alien observation posts. The aliens were undoubtedly reporting everything they saw back to their superiors, and it wouldn't be long before the Council decided to take action. He needed to make some hard decisions about how to proceed. Arya, can we disable the alien monitoring stations without destroying them? Marcus asked. I'd rather not start a war if we can avoid it. Negative, Admiral. The monitoring stations are heavily shielded and armed with automated defense systems. Any attempt to disable them would be interpreted as an act of war. However, we could attempt to jam their communications to prevent them from reporting our activities. Marcus considered his options as more ships continued to appear throughout the solar system. The light cruiser Phoenix materialized near Venus, followed by the support ship Foundation near Earth's moon. Each new arrival made the human fleet more powerful, but also made it harder to hide what was happening from alien observers. Sir, Brutus interrupted, I'm detecting incoming faster than light signatures from the direction of the Wolf system. Council response fleet, estimated arrival in 18 hours. Preliminary scans suggest significant force deployment. Marcus felt his blood turn cold as he realized that the aliens weren't waiting to see what humanity would do. They were already mobilizing to deal with what they saw as a threat to galactic stability. The years of careful monitoring and control were about to be replaced by direct military action. How many ships? Marcus asked, unable to determine exact numbers while ships remain in FTL, but energy signatures suggest at least 40 vessels of various sizes. Based on historical records, this appears to be a standard Council pacification fleet, designed to sterilize planetary surfaces while minimizing damage to valuable resources. The casual way that Brutus described planetary sterilization made Marcus realize just how serious the situation had become. The aliens weren't planning to negotiate or establish contact with humanity. They were planning to wipe out human civilization before it could become a threat to their comfortable arrangement of galactic power. Arya, how many ships do we have available right now? Marcus asked. 16 vessels are fully operational, with 8 more completing activation sequences. However, Admiral, I must point out that our crews are severely limited. Each ship is designed to operate with human crews of 50 to 200 personnel. We currently have only you. Marcus hadn't considered the crew issue, but it made sense that the advanced ships would need human operators for optimal performance. The AIs were incredibly capable, but they had been designed to work with human commanders and support staff, not to operate completely independently. Can the ships fight effectively with just AI control? Marcus asked. Affirmative, but at reduced efficiency, Arya replied. AI systems can handle basic operations and even combat situations, but human intuition and creativity are essential for optimal tactical performance. This was a fundamental principle of Confederacy military doctrine. Marcus paced around the command chamber as he tried to figure out how to crew 16 warships with one person. The approaching Council fleet would presumably have full crews and centuries of experience working together. Even with superior technology, the human ships would be at a significant disadvantage without proper human leadership. Sir, a new voice interrupted his thoughts. This one belonged to Diana, the AI aboard the stealth ship Wraith. I may have a solution to our crew problem. There are approximately 400,000 humans working in various space installations throughout the solar system. Mining stations, research facilities, orbital manufacturing plants. Many have military or technical backgrounds that would translate well to fleet operations. Marcus considered the suggestion, but he could see immediate problems with it. Even if we could recruit volunteers, we'd never have time to train them properly before the Council fleet arrives. And we can't exactly advertise that we're looking for spaceship crews without revealing what we're doing. Actually, Admiral, Arya said thoughtfully, there may be another option. The fleet AIs have been monitoring human space activities for 5 centuries. We have detailed psychological profiles on thousands of individuals who would be suitable for rapid recruitment and training. We could identify the most promising candidates and approach them directly. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the idea of the AIs having been watching human activities so closely, but he had to admit it might be their best option. How would we approach them without causing panic? Simple, Admiral. Diana replied. We tell them the truth. Many humans working in space have always wondered why technological development has been so slow and why so many space missions have failed for unexplained reasons. The evidence of alien interference that we can provide will be quite convincing. The more Marcus thought about it, the more sense it made. People working in space were already accustomed to danger and isolation, and they would probably be more willing to believe the truth about alien manipulation than Earthbound civilians. They also had the technical skills that would be essential for operating advanced spacecraft. How long would it take to identify and contact suitable candidates? Marcus asked. With the full fleet AI network coordinating the effort, we could have initial contact made within 6 hours. Arya replied. Emergency training protocols could have basic crews in place within 12 hours, though full effectiveness would require several weeks of additional training. Marcus looked at the displays showing the approaching Council fleet and the slowly growing human fleet. 18 hours until the aliens arrived, and 12 hours to get minimal crews in place. It would be cutting things very close, but it might be their only chance to mount an effective defense. Do it, Marcus ordered. Contact the most promising candidates immediately and begin emergency crew training. And Arya, I want defensive positions established around Earth and Mars within the next 10 hours. If the Council wants to sterilize human worlds, they're going to have to go through us first. As the AIs began implementing his orders, Marcus felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders more heavily than ever. In less than a day, he had gone from being a simple salvage operator to commanding a fleet that would determine humanity's future. The sleeping ships were awakening, but so were the forces that had kept humanity imprisoned for 5 centuries. The real test was yet to come, and Marcus knew that the next 18 hours would determine whether humans reclaimed their place among the stars or disappeared forever into the darkness of space. He settled back into command chair and began studying the tactical situation, preparing for the battle that would decide the fate of his species. The emergency recruitment began immediately after Marcus gave the order. Across the solar system, mining engineers received mysterious messages on their personal communicators. Research scientists found encrypted files appearing on their computers, and space station maintenance crews discovered data packets that contained information that turned their understanding of human history upside down. Marcus watched through the fleet's communication network as the AIs made contact with carefully selected individuals. A mining foreman on Europa who had always questioned why human technology seemed to lag behind theoretical capabilities. A weapons specialist on Mars who had noticed that certain research projects always seemed to encounter unexplained setbacks. A navigation officer on a cargo hauler who had wondered why no human ship had ever been built with faster-than-light capability despite the physics being well understood. The responses were mixed but encouraging. Some people dismissed the contact attempts as elaborate hoaxes or psychological warfare experiments. Others demanded more proof before they would believe such extraordinary claims. But a significant number responded with something that surprised even Marcus: relief, as if they had been waiting their entire lives for someone to confirm what they had always suspected but could never prove. Sarah Chun was among the first to respond positively. She had been working as a systems engineer on the Ceres mining station for 12 years, and she had noticed patterns in equipment failures that seemed too convenient to be accidental. When the AI aboard the battleship Sovereign contacted her with evidence of alien sabotage operations, her first reaction was to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Her second reaction was to realize that it explained everything. Within 4 hours of initial contact, Sarah was aboard a small transport ship that had appeared at Ceres with no advance warning and no entry in any official traffic control system. The ship's pilot was an AI that spoke with a calm, professional voice and showed her star charts that depicted a human civilization spanning dozens of worlds. By the time they reached the Sovereign, Sarah was ready to believe almost anything. Marcus monitored the recruitment process while also coordinating the fleet's defensive preparations. 22 ships were now fully operational, with crews ranging from skeleton staff to nearly half-strength. The volunteers were learning faster than anyone had expected, aided by AI tutors that could download centuries of tactical knowledge directly into their minds through neural interfaces that had been built into every Confederacy vessel. Dr. Robert Kim had been researching theoretical physics on Luna when he received a message containing mathematical proofs for faster-than-light travel that were decades ahead of current human understanding. The message also contained detailed schematics for the drive systems used by the ships that were supposedly waiting to defend humanity against an alien invasion fleet. Kim's scientific curiosity overcame his skepticism, and within 6 hours he was aboard the science vessel Discovery, marveling at technology that made his life's work seem primitive by comparison. The alien monitoring stations had gone silent after transmitting their initial emergency reports, but the fleet's sensors could detect the energy signatures of cloaked vessels maintaining surveillance from greater distances. The Council was clearly watching the human fleet's preparations while their own forces moved closer to the solar system. Marcus established his command center aboard the Vanguard, with holographic displays showing the positions of every human and alien vessel in the system. The tactical situation was complex, with his ships spread throughout the solar system in defensive positions, while unknown numbers of alien vessels approached from deep space. He had never commanded anything larger than a one-man salvage operation, but the ship's AI was providing constant guidance, and the basic tactical principles seemed surprisingly intuitive. Lieutenant Commander Paul Torres had been serving aboard the patrol ship Guardian when he received evidence that 3 separate cargo hauler disappearances in the past year had been caused by alien interference rather than mechanical failures as officially reported. The revelation that his own government had been covering up alien attacks on human civilian vessels filled him with cold anger. When the heavy cruiser Defiant offered him a position as tactical officer, Torres accepted immediately. The first alien scouts appeared on long-range sensors 14 hours after the fleet activation began. They were small, fast vessels that stayed well outside weapons range while conducting detailed scans of the human defensive positions. Marcus watched as his ships tracked the alien scouts, noting their advanced stealth capabilities and sophisticated sensor arrays. Admiral, Arya reported, the alien scouts are transmitting continuously to their main fleet. They appear to be conducting a thorough tactical analysis of our capabilities and positions. Marcus studied the sensor readings showing the alien scouts darting between asteroids and using the gravity wells of planets to mask their approach vectors. Their technology was clearly advanced, but their tactics seemed conservative and predictable. They were following standard scouting procedures rather than adapting to the specific situation. Can we intercept their transmissions? Marcus asked. Negative, sir. However, we can analyze their transmission patterns to estimate the size and composition of the approaching fleet. The analysis results were sobering. The alien fleet consisted of 43 vessels ranging from fast attack ships to massive dreadnoughts capable of sterilizing entire continents. It was a standard Council pacification force, designed to overwhelm any resistance through sheer firepower rather than sophisticated tactics. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been commanding a Mars orbital defense platform, when she learned that the alien ships her sensors occasionally detected were not just passing through the system, but actively monitoring human activities. The discovery that her entire career had been spent defending against a threat that was already inside the perimeter made her feel sick with betrayal. When the carrier Horizon offered her command of its fighter squadrons, Rodriguez brought her entire platform crew with her. As more volunteers joined the fleet, Marcus began to see patterns in their backgrounds and motivations. Many were people who had always felt that something was wrong with the official explanations for human limitations in space. Others were technical specialists who had noticed anomalies in their equipment that suggested outside interference. All of them shared a sense of betrayal at learning how thoroughly humanity had been deceived and controlled. The main alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel 16 hours after the human fleet activation began. They appeared at the edge of the solar system in perfect formation, with their largest ships in the center and smaller vessels arranged in protective screens around them. The formation was textbook perfect, but also completely predictable, exactly what Marcus would have expected from military forces that had been fighting according to the same doctrine for centuries. Admiral, Brutus report from the Defiant, the alien fleet is maintaining standard approach formation and speed. Their tactics suggest they expect minimal resistance and are prioritizing protection of their larger vessels over tactical flexibility. Marcus studied the alien formation and began to see opportunities. The Council forces were powerful, but they were also predictable, following procedures that had probably worked for them in dozens of previous pacification campaigns. They weren't expecting to face an opponent that could match their technology or adapt their tactics in real time. Commander David Walsh had been investigating suspicious equipment failures aboard civilian transports when he discovered evidence that certain components were being sabotaged during manufacture. The revelation that Earth's own industrial facilities had been infiltrated by alien agents made him realize that the threat to humanity was far greater than anyone had imagined. When the destroyer Tempest offered him position as engineering officer, Walsh accepted with grim determination. The alien fleet began transmitting on standard diplomatic frequencies as they approached the outer planets. The message was delivered in multiple human languages by what appeared to be a human representative, though subtle details in the speaker's appearance suggested genetic modification or surgical alteration. This is Ambassador Blake, representing the Galactic Council of Worlds. The message began. We are aware that humans in this system have discovered and activated forbidden military technology. The Council has determined that this represents an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. You have 1 hour to power down all military vessels and surrender the technology for safe disposal. Failure to comply will result in the implementation of planetary sterilization protocols. Marcus felt a surge of anger at the casual way the aliens threatened to wipe out billions of innocent people. The message made it clear that the Council saw humanity as nothing more than a potential problem to be eliminated if they became inconvenient. There was no offer of negotiation, no attempt to find a peaceful solution, just an ultimatum backed by overwhelming force. Admiral, Arya said quietly, we are receiving similar surrender demands on military frequencies from the alien fleet commander. They are requesting your personal surrender in exchange for limiting the sterilization to military targets only. Marcus almost laughed at the absurdity of the offer. Even if he trusted the aliens to keep their word, which he didn't, limiting the sterilization to military targets would still mean killing hundreds of thousands of people working on space stations and orbital facilities throughout the solar system. Arya, open a channel to all ships, Marcus ordered, and make sure the aliens can monitor our transmissions. As the communication links activated, Marcus could sense the attention of both his own crews and the alien fleet focusing on what he was about to say. His next words would determine whether humanity fought for its freedom or surrendered to continued slavery. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, he began, his voice carrying across space to every human ship and alien vessel in the system. For 500 years, your council has kept my species imprisoned in our own solar system through deception, sabotage, and murder. You have prevented us from reaching our full potential because you fear what we might become. Today, that ends. Marcus paused, looking at the displays showing both fleets preparing for battle. You offer us slavery or death. We choose freedom. All ships, Prepare for combat operations. The battle began exactly 1 hour after Marcus rejected the Council's ultimatum. The alien fleet had moved into standard attack formation, with their massive dreadnoughts advancing toward the inner planets, while smaller vessels spread out to prevent any human ships from escaping. It was a textbook approach that had probably worked in dozens of previous campaigns against primitive species that couldn't match Council firepower. Marcus watched from the Vanguard's command center as the alien fleet closed the distance to Mars orbit. The Council ships were impressive, with energy shields that sparkled like soap bubbles around their hulls and weapon arrays that could probably crack planets. But they were also moving in rigid formations that hadn't changed in centuries, following tactical doctrines that prioritized overwhelming force over adaptability. All ships, implement Dispersal Pattern 7, Marcus ordered, following tactical instincts that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his genetic memory. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a windstorm, breaking formation in ways that would have seemed chaotic to outside observers, but followed patterns that the ship AIs coordinated with mathematical precision. The Council fleet commander apparently interpreted the human dispersal as a retreat or panic response. The alien ships accelerated their advance, moving into the inner system with confidence that they could eliminate the scattered human vessels before they could reorganize. It was exactly the response that Marcus had hoped for. Captain Rodriguez launched her fighter squadrons from the horizon just as the first Council ships reached Mars orbit. The small human craft were faster and more maneuverable than their alien counterparts, darting between asteroids and using the planet's magnetic field to mask their approach vectors. The alien point defense systems tried to track them, but couldn't adapt quickly enough to the unpredictable flight patterns. The first alien ship to die was a heavy cruiser that had been leading the advanced formation. Rodriguez's fighters hit it with coordinated strikes that overloaded its shields, while the destroyer Tempest emerged from behind one of Mars' moons to deliver a killing blow with its main cannon. The Council ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion that sent debris spinning through space. Admiral, Brutus reported from the Defiant, the alien formation is beginning to collapse. They're trying to close ranks to protect their larger vessels. Marcus smiled grimly as he watched the Council fleet's perfect formation dissolving into confusion. The aliens were reverting to defensive tactics that made sense against conventional opponents, but left them vulnerable to the adaptive strategies that human forces were using. Every time they tried to establish a stable formation, the human ships would attack from unexpected angles and force them to reconfigure. Commander Torres aboard the Defiant led a brilliant assault on the alien fleet's left flank, using the gravity well of Jupiter to slingshot his ship around the planet at speeds that should have been impossible. The alien sensors lost track of the heavy cruiser as it used the planet's radiation field for cover, and by the time they reacquired it, Torres was already firing into their rear formation. The Council dreadnought Triumphant tried to respond to human tactics by breaking off from the main fleet and pursuing individual targets. It was a massive ship with enough firepower to destroy cities, but it was also slow and predictable. Marcus coordinated 3 of his fastest ships in a running battle that led the alien dreadnought through an asteroid field where its size became a liability rather than an advantage. Dr. Kim aboard the Discovery had been analyzing alien technology during the battle, and he discovered something that changed everything. The Council ships were using energy frequencies that created interference patterns with each other when they operated in close formation. It was a subtle weakness that could be exploited if the human ships could coordinate their attacks properly. All ships target enemy vessels with synchronized pulse weapons, Marcus ordered. Dr. Kim has found a way to turn their own energy fields against them. The next wave of human attacks sent carefully timed energy pulses toward groups of Council ships. When the pulses hit the alien energy fields, they created resonance patterns that amplified each other until the alien shields collapsed completely. 3 Council vessels were destroyed in the first coordinated strike, and panic began to spread through the alien fleet. Commander Walsh aboard the Tempest had been working on modifications to his ship's engines during the battle, and he discovered that the human drive systems could be overcharged to produce speed bursts that no alien ship could match. He used this advantage to dart in and out of the alien formation, striking at critical targets and disappearing before the Council ships could respond. The battle spread throughout the inner solar system as both fleets maneuvered for advantage. The aliens had superior numbers and firepower, but the human ships were proving far more adaptable and unpredictable than the Council had expected. Every tactical manual that the aliens had studied for centuries was proving useless against opponents who seemed to make up new strategies in real time. Sarah Chen aboard the Sovereign was coordinating point defense systems when she noticed that the alien missiles were following predictable flight paths that could be countered with precise timing. She developed a defensive pattern that allowed the human ships to intercept alien attacks while using minimal energy, extending their combat endurance significantly. The turning point came when Marcus realized that the Council fleet was trying to establish a bombardment position over Earth. The alien ships were regrouping near Luna, preparing to use their planet-killing weapons against humanity's homeworld. It was a kind of tactical position that would normally be impossible to assault, but Marcus had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. "All ships, converge on Luna," Marcus ordered. "We're going to hit them where they think they're strongest." The human fleet abandoned their hit-and-run tactics and formed up for a direct assault on the alien bombardment position. It looked like exactly the kind of desperate charge that the Council had been expecting from primitive humans who didn't understand proper space warfare. The alien ships opened fire with everything they had, filling space with enough energy to sterilize small moons. But the human ships didn't charge straight into the alien guns. Instead, they used Luna's gravity well to curve their approach, coming at the Council fleet from multiple angles while using the moon itself as a shield against the heaviest weapons. The aliens had positioned themselves to bombard Earth, not to defend against attacks from their own rear areas. Lieutenant Commander Torres executed a maneuver that will be talked about in military academies for centuries, if any survived to build them. He used his ship's overcharged engines to achieve orbit around Luna at impossible speed, coming around the moon's far side to attack the alien.